Hi, YouTube. It's your girl, Sheila J. You guys already know I'm not going to do my whole spiel of my intro, but I am going to do my grounding and my contract. I am a powerful, joyous, trusting leader, and I have a special guest on my Manifesting Talks, episode 3, my friend Carl over here. I felt inspired to bring him on because of some of his recent um, Facebook posts that I've been watching, and I thought it would be a cool introspect to have a guy's perspective talking about manifesting and mindfulness on my YouTube channel and my podcast.
Well, Sheila, first off, thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Really excited about what we're going to talk about today, and just excited to see you take action and actually put your podcast out there, put yourself out there. I've also been following a lot of what you've been doing recently, whether it's your business that you're starting or your education that you're pursuing. I love to just see people taking action and being about it, and you're about it. So that's amazing. A little bit about me for your audience. And before I even say that, just want to make it very clear that anything I say are representation of my views and do not reflect the views of any other organization that I represent or companies or entities that I work for or partner with. These views are a reflection of my own and no one else's. With that being said, a little intro about me. I like to think of myself as a bit of a magician. I help people sort of bypass their limitations so that they can live their full, true, powerful lives, be fully themselves, be fully present, be fully confident, um, with a like sprinkle of toughness on top of all of that mental toughness. Um, as for my day job, though, I am your everyday salesperson currently working at Google in business development, primarily within new business. So that's where I'm at, where I come from, and a bit about me.
Awesome. Yeah, he has an extensive resume there. Definitely an extensive resume. And I like the fact that you said you consider yourself to be a musician because I think of maybe like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I ran into one of my professors from school, and I basically told him that I feel like I'm a magical unicorn. That's how I identify myself as. I don't relate to anybody. I don't relate to anything else. I just consider myself to be a magical unicorn. And it goes with me because I feel like I'm so rare that once you meet me, you're like, you know what, that kind of does shoot Sheila. Like she is really a magical unicorn. Like she's rare. So
Oh, so that's the element of it that really speaks to you, that rarity of it.
yes, because
I like that.
I would be want to sit here being like how everyone else is when you can stand out and be the rare of the rare.
I like that. I like that. Stand out. Stand out.
Stand
Hmm.
out because everybody else is doing the same thing. So what is going to make somebody different? Like what's going to make you different if you are doing what everybody else is doing? You have to stand out.
True. And it's funny that you mentioned that because right now, even as I put together the offer for my own business, that's one of the main things. It's like, how do you stand out in this sea of people who are all doing something similar to yourself? What is your unique offer? What is that unique story that you bring to the table that you can offer to people that no one else can? Um, so yeah, I think there's definitely some value in what you're saying here for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely think that it's big. Like I think being rare, and think being unique and setting yourself apart from what everybody else is, no matter what business you're in, whether you're like a coach, a life coach, a therapist, a model, singer, creative person, it doesn't matter what field you're in, you want to set yourself apart. Or even in corporate America, like you have experience in corporate America. Well, I am not gonna bash on corporate America. That's where people make their money. that's where people make their money. You have to set yourself apart from the herd of people that are in corporate America with you.
It's true. And with that too, there are a lot of talented people out there.
So many, so
So
many.
many talented people out there. And if you're doing the same thing like everyone else and you're not standing out, that's how you easily get lost. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. That's
yeah,
a big thing, especially in the law of assumption community, which majority of my subscribers on YouTube are in the law of assumption community. And there's a lot of controversial things going on and a lot of people popping up. Like I can't tell you how many times I see a new person popping up on my YouTube subscription page, like homepage that talks about law of assumption or manifesting. And I'm just like, uh, what? Like, wait, what? Like, so many people. But it's like, okay, and seeing all these different people, and now it's like, okay, well, what is Sheila gonna do to set herself apart from what everyone else is doing? And
yeah,
that's where the birth of manifesting talks came in because I was like, well, I've been doing all these videos by myself and my platform's starting to grow. So let me start asking, bringing people on my channel and
yeah.
creating conversations with people outside of myself because it's good to have that feedback. It's good to have that dialogue with somebody else instead of me just talking to myself in videos. And that's
Like,
where this comes from. But what I liked about having Carl and seeing his post was that a lot of some of your posts, I was reading it and then I watched you like do the stuff in the gym and I'm like, he's really lifting these weights and he's all about his mindset and he's really all about his mindset. And I've watched your growth. And I'm just like, people, when I tell you, if you guys are not following him on Instagram or whatever, like this man benches like weights that I can't even fathom. But you have to have the mindset to be able to do it. You have to have that mindset. And it brought me, and that's why I was like, you know what, let me bring him on the channel because I was like, wait a minute, no, like people's 3D circumstances or people's circumstances are a lot like benching 425 pounds. It's just a matter of how bad you want it.
it's true. It's true. It's definitely a matter of how badly do you want it. Um, and I guess to bring this full circle as far as manifestation is concerned, it's how badly do you want it? How badly can you visualize it? And whether or not you can set that goal, that intention, and then take action against it as well.
Yeah.
Um, I wish I could bench 400 pounds. I can't do that. I think the really kind of cool thing that I can do right now is probably a deadlift of 500 pounds.
That's still
And
a lot. That's more than I could do.
soon though, that will be 600. Um, whenever that time comes. But I think what was interesting as far as manifestation was concerned, when I had started the lifting journey, I had sort of set an intention to become strong or to become stronger. And I guess over a year later, I was able to do just that. And just by setting that intention, things more or less just came to me. Like a friend that I knew who was a coach, he came to me all of a sudden when I wasn't quite looking for someone to help me out. And then working with him, and then that mindset piece as well that you brought up is what allowed me to find like success at the gym, right?
Yeah.
So just thinking about it, setting that intention, it just made all of that kind of like just fall in place full circle. Um, so I think that's the thing that's most interesting.
Yeah. Do you think that do you before you go to the gym or like before you start your workout at the gym, is there anything that you do in terms of like mindset work or like grounding yourself?
Not exactly. And it depends as well. So not exactly in that when I go to the gym, I'm not saying like a mantra or I'm not doing kind of any like real mindfulness activities.
Mhm.
Um, on days though where I am lifting heavy, if I know I'm going to go for like a a PR or something like that, before the PR, maybe I'll like really pick out the song that I'm gonna play that just really gets me going, or I'll think to myself like I am a beast. I am that person before I like attack the weights. That isn't something I do all the time because I've gotten to a point now, at least with the gym, where I feel comfortable there. Like it has become a
A habit.
yeah, it's become a habit, but just the location of the gym to me, it's almost like an extension of my home. In a sense, it's like that's the level of comfort I've achieved at the gym. Like when I had started, the gym made me feel uncomfortable, and then eventually, like gradually, it got to a point where I felt so comfortable there, and like now I can dance around, act like a fool, and I feel nothing about doing that. Like I just feel comfortable there. I guess the other thing as well that I do is I do have a morning routine where I do a bit of meditation as well.
Mhm.
Um, so I used to have a really long and drawn out, maybe 30 minutes to an hour long sort of morning routine.
Mhm.
But because of changes at work and changes in just like how much time I dedicate to the gym, all of that had to switch around a little bit. So where I used to do sort of like a meditation practice every morning, I don't have time for that. So what I do now is every morning as I'm walking to the gym, I practice a little bit of mindfulness. And the way how that sort of works out is no headphones on that walk, phone in my pocket, and I'm not allowed to check my phone until I get to the gym. And while I'm doing that walk, I'm just becoming really aware of how my body feels, how the cold breeze is like restricting my body, like how my body kind of tightens before I go to the gym. If
Mhm.
I'm really nervous about the gym session, I'm like really getting in my head and understanding that feeling as I walk there, and just becoming hyper aware and hyper present of everything around me as well, whether that's the sounds and the different views. Um, and that's one of the practices that I have every morning. Whether I go to the gym or not, I try to add that into the morning, just that little bit of mindfulness.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. Even if you like don't have time to do it, it's like a really good, amazing piece to do. Like I know as like honestly speaking, I know majority of my subscription, like people who follow me on YouTube, majority of them are females. So having them, the male contacts will speak to the males that follow me on either Facebook or Instagram.
Mm.
So one thing that I took away from one of the classes that I took, that I just finished up with, understanding psych diagnosis, I had to watch something that I talked about mental health in Black men. And I was like, yeah, Black men really don't, it's very rare. Like I feel like it's like a very small percentage of friends that I have that are in my like my sphere of influence that I see, like you being one of them, that actually care about their mental health and their mental health, your well-being, your overall physical health. And outside of that, like some of the other people that I'm looking at and just like being very much aware of red flags and triggers, and I'm like, hey, like there's something here that you need to analyze and you're not doing it, but you can't force them to do it. But you just like, it hurts because you want to see that other person so bad succeed, but it's like they're so consumed with chaos in their life that that's all they know.
Mm.
Think that what they're doing is wrong and that they don't need help, but in reality they do. But the society that we live in makes it hard for people of color to get help, essentially, because there's not much of that. And there's not much people doing that internal work like you and some of the other people that I know are doing.
Yeah. Did I'm curious, what was probably the biggest takeaway that you had from that class?
Whew, biggest takeaway that I had from that class. Whew. Biggest takeaway that I took away from that class is that not everything is as what you've seen, and that not everything is what you seem it to be.
Hmm.
And sometimes there can be misdiagnosis because honestly, it seems like everything within the mental health facility, there's a lot of diagnoses that
Hmm.
are overlapping with each other. A lot of the things that people diagnose you with, um, people with have similar symptoms. But the biggest thing was just like I was just profound at the numbers.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
it's like, oh, wow, this is a thing. Like this is seriously a thing.
Wow. So
Like
so there are a lot of misdiagnoses within or diagnosis, or whatever the plural is for it, within like
and I had to it was
psychiatry.
me because I was like trying my hardest to not self-diagnose myself while I was reading my textbook.
Wow.
I was like, oh, wait, I feel like that. Oh, wait, I also feel like this. And I would find myself diagnosing myself with things. And I was like, wait, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Let's not add more to our problems when there's not really a problem there, which
Yeah.
that's what our brains tend to do. Our brains tend to create problems and create things that aren't really there. But if we can create a problem that's not really there in our minds, then why can't we sit with ourselves for 5 to 10 minutes a day and create or visualize a solution for our problems?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's big.
There are two things that I've found interesting that you said. The first is, and I know we went on a bit of a tangent with that question I asked you,
It's so the
but
flow here. Oh,
wherever we go is where we go, right?
yeah.
The first thing was about mental health within the Black community, particularly with Black men. Um, I think what's really interesting about that, and not even just thinking about Black men, but men in particular,
In general.
um, there is a lot of, I want to be fair to men, but there's a lot of like sticking your head in the ground as far as mental health is concerned, for men in particular. And I think the evidence of that is we can see how high suicide rates are
Oh,
for men in the country, as a testament to that. And I think what's happening there is a lot of men are socialized or told from a young age, like, you don't be emotional, you keep it all in. And if you share your anger and frustration, society will attack you for it. And I think to some degree there is truth to some of that. To some of that, I think when men who don't know how to express their angers in healthy ways, society do kind of lash out at them if they do express that anger. And I'm not even thinking about men who are like abusive. There's nothing in this world that justify that kind of thing. But I'm thinking of men in particular who, might be angry and as a result of that anger might yell, or men who, because they're so accustomed to bottling it in, that when their emotions hit a pressure point, the expression of that is maybe raising your voice a little bit too much, yelling a little bit too much, or finding something that is slightly like nonviolent, but maybe kind of aggressive in some capacity. And I think what happens is a lot of society, they would see that, and maybe rightfully so, there would be some kind of like fear around that. And I think what that leads to ultimately is a lot of men just saying, okay, I'm going to bottle this up instead, which only further
It
exacerbates
does
the
not help the
problem, right?
problem.
Yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Um, but I think the fix to that or the solve for that is like men need to be a part of communities where they're able to talk with each other with no judgment and just be authentically like express that anger, however that anger comes out within that safe space.
Hmm.
And I know typically for men, like if another man is super angry and you're sitting down with them and they're like venting, like another man can usually like handle like that kind of anger and not feel threatened by it because it's like, if we gotta fight, we gotta fight. It's like whatever. But for others who be intimidated by that, that isn't a safe space for them to engage with men in, right? So then, of course, they would not be inclined to engage. So what happens is a lot of men, I think, they just kind of lock up in those scenarios where where it's best for them to talk or best for them to communicate. And I
Yeah.
think the other barrier as well there too is a lot of men actually don't know how to communicate unless it's through like the language of either like violence or they don't know how to communicate unless it's the language of like aggression in some capacity.
Or
So
they become addicted to things like drugs or even sex, as an example.
exactly, exactly. So then I think then the gap ultimately there is, and of course I'm no psychiatrist, right? So you can take this as a grain of salt, however many grains of salt you need to take this with. But I think there the gap in knowledge becomes okay. How do we teach men to communicate? And then from teaching them how to communicate, how do we go about having them be open and finding communities in which they can be open and just express their truth without judgment? Um, but that doesn't currently exist, and I'm also not entirely convinced that a lot of men even want that if it did exist either.
I mean, there, okay, well, I feel like it can exist, might not exist in maybe our lifetime, but I feel like it can exist. I know men like Justin Baldini as an example. So if he watches this video, I'm gonna shout out to him because I started reading his book Man Enough, which talks about
Mhm.
defying masculinity. And because I part of the reason why I why I picked up the book in the first place was because I was like, okay, there's a lot of men in my life that I would like to be able to help, but I don't know how to help. And I'm in school to study like holistic psychology with a double minor in cognitive neuroscience and photography with an expressive arts concentration. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I help men heal when I don't understand what a man goes through because I'm a woman? So I'm
Yeah,
like, and I know a lot of guys, they follow me because, well, I'm a pretty face, but it's like, hey, there's more to me than just a pretty face. But I know as a cult, like I know as a gender, you guys go through a lot. Like, yes, women go through a lot, but y'all go through a lot too. And we don't acknowledge that.
possibly. I mean, for sure, men and women do go through a lot. I think there is room, though, whether you are a man or woman. I think there's kind of like a universal human experience
Yeah.
that we all can kind of speak to. And that could potentially be the bridge of understanding between both sexes or wherever you fall on the spectrum, that is. Um, that could create greater understanding, better bonding, better communication, um, and ultimately lead to breakthrough, I guess.
Yeah. I definitely think that too. And I think that what happens is I think every like what I haven't done a video on it, so people are gonna get a sneak peek of this in this video. I basically said that I'm creating a video about manifest like depression and anxiety and like any mental health
Mm.
disorder is basically a manifestation. It's basically your fears of letting go or wanting to control the past or the present and overthinking
Ooh,
manifest it into its.
true, truth. Okay,
And so how depression and anxiety looks in a female is completely different from how depression and anxiety and any other mental health disorder manifests in a man, and how those manifests in behaviors manifest through anger, because a man doesn't necessarily know how to convey their emotions the way that, let's say, females do. But in every person or human being on this earth, we all have masculine energy and we all have female energy.
true.
And if a woman is safe with a man, she will go into her, it's like it's like the court balance thing.
Mm.
Hold up, I gotta do this without leaving the balance. It's like a balance. So if I'm way too much of my masculinity energy, then that means I don't feel safe. If
Interesting.
I don't feel safe with you, I'm not gonna go into my feminine energy. If I don't feel safe with you, I have to feel safe to be balanced.
Mm.
But and it's vice versa. If a man is not safe, how can he go into his feminine and release those emotions that he needs to release in a healthy manner?
I see. I, I guess how in in this equation here, how are you defining masculine and feminine energy?
I guess masculine in this equation, well, this is obviously my perspective. So
Mm.
I guess the way that I feel masculine energy versus feminine energy is the feminine is more soft, vulnerable, open, honest, whereas the masculine is heavy and very hustle mentality, very I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I'm not gonna show my emotions type of thing. That's how I interpret the masculine versus the feminine. So masculine is hard, feminine is soft. But I think we all have a little bit of those pieces in all of us.
For sure, for sure. Definitely agree with you that we have both. Life is, I think, in essence, a balance of those different energies. Um, and I think I also agree with your definition as well here. There might be room to think through that definition a bit more. Um, but yeah, I think ultimately I do agree with that definition. Um, and you bring up something interesting too, that you need to feel some kind of psychological safety in order to bring either of those energies out, especially for, your experience as a woman. You found that for you to bring out more of your feminine energy, that you had to feel safe. And the same was true for a man to bring out more of his feminine energy. He also had to feel safe as well. Um, and it makes me wonder if we're like losing something, right? Because if how much of our energy we bring out depends on someone else, then is there a missed opportunity there in that we could be bringing our whole selves in all environments and we're just choosing not to because someone else isn't allowing that?
Hmm.
I don't know, just a random thought as I was thinking about that. Um, and it made me wonder if there were cases where maybe I should have brought both energies and I guess my full self, and I allowed someone else to sort of shut down my ability to be fully present and fully there, or if I allowed myself to do that because I interpreted someone else's actions in whatever way that I interpreted it, and then therefore shut my own self out. Um,
I mean, I kind of, well, I think on my healing journey, on my healing journey and what I've learned up until this point is that I find myself like in order for me to become whole for me, I have to be able to feel safe in my body.
mm,
But that's still no excuse for someone not giving me that safety back, that security, that safety that in their behaviors and their actions. But I know that in order for me to feel safe with me, it might take me a little minute to get to the place where I'm like, you know what? I've done enough healing on my own. I can't
mm,
now allow space for someone else to come in and be in my presence, whether that's somebody that I've dealt with in the past or someone new. I'm I am open, but I think we all have to get to places where we're good on our own before trying to equate someone else into the equation.
mm,
Because then if you're not good on your own and you're bringing in old baggage into your relationships, then you're going to start to wonder, well, if the same thing is happening in this relationship and it happened in the last relationship, then is this person the problem or am I the problem? But then when you start to do that healing work, like that genuine healing internal work and not the surface level, oh, I'm just going to do this so I can get this person back type of healing work, then you
mm,
start to open yourself up to being like, oh, well, I was, I played a part in this, but the other person also played a part in this too. But you both have to be willing to take the accountability.
yeah.
And my channel is definitely very, very, as of recently, has been very big on accountability. That word seems to be a trigger word for a lot of people because people do not like to hold themselves accountable. But I'm very big on that accountability part because you can't get mad at somebody else if you're showing behaviors that make it okay to do this.
Mm,
And if you want to see change, you got to be the change. So, even going back to piggybacking off of what you were saying earlier about the support groups for men and offering that, if that's something that you want to see, don't be afraid to not start it. Start it. You even if you have no experience with mental health, you can still start it and be the example for future generations and to have that
this is very true. This is very true.
because you're being the example. Like there's a guy that I follow that he almost has 100K. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. You can maybe partner up with him. His name is Dylan James. It's all about mindset.
This
All about
sounds familiar.
he's all about mindset.
Dylan James, what does he do?
He's a mindset. He's a mindset coach.
Mm,
He has almost 100K subscribers on YouTube, and he's really like he comes up with like meditations and affirmation tracks that people sleep with. Like I regularly sleep with his affirmation tracks on.
hey, that's what's up.
So, and I see results. But I be seeing results. Like my current, the one that I've been listening to for the past week is his millionaire one. That's the one that I've been listening to this week, and yeah, it has not been easy because my subconscious has been trying to push back and resist since I started listening to it because it's like your subconscious, when you're trying to reprogramming it, it re- it will do anything and everything to try to resist what you're trying to put into it, because it's like it's trying to protect you from something new. So it's like this is your brain, and it's like you're trying to open it up just a little bit with new info and put new information in there, but it's like, nope, I'm gonna clench my fists. I'm not gonna let in new information. But eventually, over time, it'll let go, and then that's when you'll start to see the results of what you're putting in your brain.
Yeah. That sounds a lot like the ego trying to maintain control. Um,
Yeah.
and it's connected to what you were saying earlier as well about you didn't say exactly this, but you were hinting at this. Focusing so much on the past or in the future and how that kind of create maybe certain kind of neuroses like depression or anxiety and things of that and breeds fear. The ego loves that. The ego loves that. The
The
mind
ego
loves
loves that.
that.
Ego loves that. It feeds off of that.
Yeah,
That's
it
what it feeds
definitely
off of.
does. It
And that's
definitely does.
not to say like it's not to say that it can't be cured. It can definitely be cured. And it's not permanent. Like I find that depression and anxiety, I feel like it's definitely temporary. Like depression is like you're sad for things that have happened in the past, and anxiety is for things you're feeling anxious about, things that haven't even happened.
Yeah.
And it's because of that control and that fear and that constant fear that these things have developed inside of some people's minds, myself included. I've
No,
not,
it happens to us all. And I don't think you ever reach a point where it doesn't happen to you, right?
oh,
Um,
unless you decide you want to take psilocybin or LSD or whatever, but that's for a whole other conversation for a whole other day. The neuroscientist in me has been doing my research. If people want to know where I'm getting this research from, it's a documentary on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind with Plants by Michael Pollan. I do have his book. It's really good. But we're not gonna get into that because Sheila will go on a tangent, and I don't think I'm ready for that tangent.
Actually, I feel like that's the hot topic these days.
Oh,
Like you can't run away. Yeah, you can't run away from like any conversations about this because they always pop up like
it
every
does.
other week these
It
days.
really does always pop up, these conversations. And I tried to run away from it for a brief time period. I definitely tried to run away from it, and I was definitely not open to the idea at the time when it
Hmm.
came to psilocybin products. I know a certain somebody used to sell that stuff, or I think they still do, but whatever. Um, and I was just like hesitant on it. I was like, what? Shrooms? I don't know about this. I don't know. And I'm like, I eat edibles because it helps me to relax. But what? Shrooms? I don't know about that. But then I started doing my research and I started going back to school and I started reading. I was just like, oh, wait, you're telling me that this will heal in one dose? Like
Yeah,
heal,
it's kind of wild.
OCD and depression and anxiety, but one dose? Oh, okay. Yeah, opened I was mind blown. I was like, I'm gonna continue doing my research.
Yeah, it's wild how we're beginning to understand kind of like the potential medicinal uses of of those.
And it's crazy
But
because we all know
yeah.
that if once this research gets like really solidified out there, we all know what's gonna happen to the pharmaceutical world. And it's really sad to think that way, but yeah, but it's gonna be interesting to see, like it's really gonna be interesting. I'm really curious to know like how it's gonna help shape the healing and all of that because I believe we all deserve to have that healing and
Yeah,
that
but I think all of that, like all of that healing, is accessible to us today, um, even without something like psilocybin or any other drug that you could potentially use. Um, I've been reading. I recently read. I've been reading. Recently read *The Power of Now* by Eckhart Tolle,
oh I did.
and
Yeah.
really amazing book. Yeah, totally recommend. As a Christian, as someone who is a Christian, there's a lot in the book that I have like kind of resistance to, primarily because I think it's at odds with some of the things that I do believe. But I think the book really shines in making a case for focusing on the now. And it seems as though, and this is actually one of my recent Facebook posts, it seems as though whenever we do focus on the now or focus on the body or grounding ourselves in some capacity, it allows us to almost block out the past and the future that creates a lot of those neuroses that we were talking about, right?
I got
So,
two books for you to read that I think might help you.
yeah,
I don't remember the name of the off the top of my head. So when we get off, I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna take a picture of them and send them to you. I think
please,
you'll
please share.
I think you'll find them extremely helpful because I know with me on my manifesting spiritual journey that I've been on, one of the things that I really struggled with because I was a Catholic and then I grew up, then
Mm,
I transferred over to Christianity and non-denominational faith, and my faith was all over the place. But the two books that really helped me were are in my closet. I send them to you. I don't remember the names of them. But then there was another book that my neuroscience self likes to read. It's called Your Brain is a Time Machine.
mm,
That book was very interesting because it was just like, oh, okay, us here we are having a science like an actual scientist who's actually like really pinpointing and really telling you like, oh, wait, everything is in your mind. Like memories, it's all in your mind.
yeah,
Not really, it's not real unless
all
you
of it is fake.
all of it is fake. Like not
Yeah,
like it's just like,
all
wait,
illusions.
it's all an illusion. And I'm just like, oh. And the last book that I just finished reading,
Ooh, Free Will. Who's that by?
Sam Harris, he's another neuroscientist. Really good. This one, I think will end, and I'll bring up like one or two facts from this. This one really changed my perspective of how I see free will and understanding like the whole collective consciousness and everything. And I was just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
Mm,
oh, okay. Like he even brought up like two different scenarios with like three different scenarios, one with about murder, but one of them that he brought up was that it was a guy, he killed somebody, he killed a woman, but we later on found out that he had a tumor in his prefrontal cortex. And in
mm,
your prefrontal cortex, that's where your emotions are controlled. So if that's out of whack, it's like you can't expect somebody to behave correctly when your prefrontal cortex is growing a large tumor. So that it brings up these questions like, well, how do we put them in jail when they weren't even thinking correctly because of the tumor?
it basically rocks the foundation of literally everything that we believe about society and personal responsibility, which is
My whole entire reasoning and my whole entire like thinking process has been shifted this semester. Reading this book, reading the materials that I've been reading in eco psychology, Like, if you've never heard of eco psychology, this goes for anybody who's watching my channel or listening or whatever. The eco psychology is the study of the humans to the earth and vice versa.
Mm.
It's changed my entire outlook on relationship between earth and us and vice versa. I no longer I no longer think that earth is separate from us or that we are separate from earth. I now officially like wholeheartedly believe that whatever is happening in this planet is happening at the expense of us, not
Oh,
healing. And like it's just if anybody has an opportunity to take a class in eco psychology, definitely go take it. Like
mm.
I can't stress that enough because it definitely helps create like it definitely helps. It talks about how being in we talk about how being in nature helps the mind, how creating gardens helps you be one with the like it just it really hits home. It really
Have you has it changed the way you related to, I guess, the earth, the world, society in any way?
it's definitely changed my perspective of how I see the earth, how I now want to make sure I take better care of the earth. Like now I'm like, okay, no, like I used to be the one somebody who and I feel like we're all kind of guilty of this because it's not just me. Like I used to be somebody who would just throw out wrappers. Like I would pollute, but I feel like I'm good. I would throw something out of my window and I wouldn't throw it directly in the garbage can. But
No.
like it sounds bad, but that's what I'm guilty of. And now I'm just like, you know what? No,
Mm.
let me take that extra 5 seconds to go throw it out in the garbage because it has to go in the garbage because I have to do a better job in how I'm taking care of the earth. Because if I take better care of the earth in return is going to take better care of me. And when we heal the earth in turn will heal us.
I love that. That is very true.
It's like even just like going out in nature for 45 minutes, just sitting there. No music, no phone, just sitting there and observing. Like that will go go such a long way. And I think that some people just don't understand how crucial that is. And I always used to be like, I was telling my professor, I'm like, I'm a city girl. I don't like being in nature. But now going back and forth between Massachusetts and New York, I'm like, this nature thing is kind of getting like it's just kind of rubbing off on me. Like maybe there's not there's some nature girl in me after all because now I see the beauty in the world and now I'm learning that like just touching a tree outside will help you feel grounded. Like just like doing little things in nature because you're a flower too. I'm a flower. We're made of water, just like a flower. So it's like it, and we think that the earth, like we think that these plants out here don't be understanding, but they do. So the same way that we talk to ourselves positively, it's the same way we have to talk to the earth.
Mm. I think it's amazing that you've had that experience where you were able to connect with nature and just being fully connected and fully present with it. Um, and I also love that you acknowledge as well this piece of when we heal the earth in turns like returns that healing as well. I think so. The other thing that you said, right, when you had this kind of evolution where, oh my God, I didn't like nature. And suddenly, like, well, not suddenly, but now I do because I've experienced it. I think that's the problem of being city folks. I used to have the same I used to have the same problem, and maybe between the ages of like 6 to give or take like 17, maybe when I graduated from high school or so. Um, and I think you don't really understand the importance of nature until you really leave the city and go elsewhere. Because
Yeah.
the city has this sort of the city has a pace that everyone conforms to because the city, it's New York City. You have hustle and bustle. You have to grind. You have to move at 10x the speed. You have to 10x everything. That's kind of the New York mentality.
Yeah.
And that mentality breeds a sort of, because I am only focused on the next destination, I can't focus on nature or anything that's present. So in order to even be in communion with the earth, you have to like kind of leave the city to some degree, right? Um,
Basically creates DAF, which is distraction, attention, focus disorder, or something like that. Direction, attention, focus. eh, Direction, attention, something. I just learned it, so that's why it's like it's there at the top of my head, but I just learned about it. It's kind of similar to ADHD, but it's
mm,
when we have so much going on, stimulating our brains at once that we cannot take the time out to focus. But to remedy that, it will require us to go out in nature.
interesting. Interesting. That's huh.
I just learned about it. I
It's
just
called, you said it's DFD or
DAS,
DA?
direction, direction attention fatigue. That's what it's called.
Oh,
We all at some point have suffered through it. Actually, if I'm not even gonna lie. No, I can't even say all of us are suffering, like have some point have suffered from it. It's temporary, but I feel like we all suffer it from it. Like there's no, but it's temporary and you can heal yourself. You're just gonna need some nature.
I guess that's where the parks play a role in our lives.
Where the parks cut play a role in our lives. That's where, yeah. And it's very similar to ADHD, but it's just not, apparently it's not a mental disorder or anything. It's just a temporary thing that we just go through because there's just so much surrounding us that we just don't know where to place our attention.
I see.
Like our
It's cool.
phones are going,
And
like you have access, like people wanting to get in touch with you. Like there's just so much. And our brains can only handle so much.
mm,
With it already, it's already trying to process the 80,000 thoughts that are going in it all at once. And it only weighs about 3 pounds. And it has like 86 trillion neural pathways going on up here. Our brains can literally light New York City if we wanted to.
damn.
That's how powerful our brains are. But we don't put the right information in it to properly use it.
um, um,
It's really insane, like what our brains are really capable of. When you really look at the numbers and like, yeah, someone would have told me that I would be into neuroscience and studying the brain like 10 years ago, I would have probably laughed.
how did you get into that?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know because it took a 10-year break. I took a 10-year break from school. No, correction. I take that back. I do know how I got into this. I got into this because my I got into this because I how can I talk about this without saying somebody's name? But you know what? I'm a powerful, bold leader, so I don't care. I got into this because of a certain. I got into this because of Daquan's grandmother passing away.
Hmm.
That's how I got into this, and I was like, she passed away from something that was very rare, and I feel like it could have been prevented. And so my healing journey ended up me going back to school
Hmm.
to study holistic psychology and cognitive neuroscience and photography. Keep in mind, I took a 10-year break from school. So it was like, oh, wait, Sheila's all of a sudden go back to school. But what inspired it is her passing away. And me feeling like, well, you know what? I feel like if she had the proper healing and the proper rest, like other alternative forms of medicine and healing instead of Western medicine, maybe it could have been healed and prevented if we caught it sooner, whatever. But just then studying the brain just led to like all the like studying the brain just led to like my mind just like opening up more and just being more aware and wanting to study more. And it's just like hearing like certain people say, oh, but manifesting isn't science and this, that, and the third, and you can't like, no, manifesting is backed by science, and I'm studying it. Like, it's definitely backed by science. It's there. There's more to it. Like people are like, well, where is it? Show me where this is actually science. Because some people you have to take the manifesting word out of it. You can't
Yeah.
you can't bring faith and God like you gotta talk numbers, data, science with them.
Well, for those people, you can just say, well, whenever you talk about a blue car, and in that conversation, you say, oh my God, I never see a blue car. And then suddenly you start noticing blue cars everywhere. That's an example of manifestation. It's opening up your eyes, ears, body to the things that are already all around you. It's for whatever reason, your mind, your brain, your body just been
Your
closed off to those.
particular activating system.
Yeah.
Brain is searching for the answer. It's always searching for the answer. So let's say, as an example of this, your brain, you're telling your brain, oh, I'm gonna marry like this is just an example. I'm gonna marry a certain somebody. You're like, oh, I'm gonna marry this person. But your brain's like, but I don't see evidence of this. So the more you tell your brain, oh, I'm gonna marry this person, the more your brain is gonna search for evidence. And the more you start to see people getting married, wedding dresses, engagement rings. So your brain is listening to these. So even with people wanting to manifest these things, this is how you know what you're telling your brain is actually implanted in your subconscious. That's how you know it's working when you start to see the evidence of it. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're not doing wrong or anything wrong. It just means it's working to keep going, to keep affirming, to keep doing your visualization, whatever it is that you're doing, to keep doing it. That's what that means. That's like me affirming for someone to get a car. I had no evidence of somebody getting a car. The only thing I saw was me seeing the car every time. And me, every time I saw that car, I would be like, oh, they love their new car. But I had no evidence of them being able to get the car. But they got it because every time I saw that car, I saw it so much. I affirmed for it so much and saw it so much that one day my intuition was like, don't know how, I don't know when, but I feel like they're going to get their car. Sure enough, I was right. They got their car the very next day after I said that. Did I have any proof of that? No, but that's what having faith is. Science, not science, whatever you want to call it. I don't honestly, uh, my brain still can't fathom half of the things that I learned and I talk about. I'm just like, what? That's a thing? But that's the type of open mindedness I think that some people should definitely have.
Yeah. And with that open mindedness as well, part of that comes from who's in your circle. So the more diverse in thought um, your circle can be, it sort of opens up your mind to visualize and see different things that you weren't able to see before in the past. Um,
And discernment.
yeah, so
Definitely.
it's very important to have a very diverse circle, different kind of people, different age groups, different ethnicities, genders, ideologies that you don't even agree with within reason. Set reasonable boundaries, of course. But
Yeah. And one thing that I'm gonna say, and then I think we're gonna end the video. And thing I think I'm gonna say is that my teacher from last semester told me, he's like, energy. You feel that before words.
mm,
Energy is constant. It's neither created nor destroyed. So if you feel the energy, whether it's good or bad, it's there for a reason, but you feel that before words.
ooh, I love that. I can add another piece to that too. Like energy attracts. So if you're at a like kind of low energy or an energy that might be really destructive, you will invite that kind of destructive energy into your life. And if you're at an energy that's really solution focused, creative, open, you will attract that sort of energy in other people around you. Like those are who you will bond with ultimately. They will just show up in your life. So yeah, I love what you said.
Yes. That all of the above. Like it's not just about the thoughts, it's not just about the behaviors, it's not just it's energy. Because at the end of the day, we are literally energy. Like we are made of energy.
Yeah. Eastern society understands this a little bit better than we do in Western society because we we place so much emphasis in logic, reason, and
And
we almost shun spirituality
we
to a large. Yeah.
like we place things on the pen more so what's going on in here. But for me to get the pen, I need to focus on what's going on in here, but for me to get this. But we're taught that we have to get the pen first before we see it in our eyes. We're taught the complete opposite, which still to this day, I still don't understand why we're taught the complete opposite, but I guess we're never going to know that reason why. And I'm fine with that. I just would hope and pray, like, I just intend that some point in our lifetime, we start to see the civilization do a lot better. Because it's just America. It's just America that has to get with the program. Nobody else. We're just
Yeah, but
program.
I think that makes us. I think it makes us unique, though. There, like every like different cultures will have their own different kind of neuroses or their own different kind of ways in which they relate to the world. And I
Yeah.
think maybe it's led to something particularly destructive, but I think it's also led to a lot of good and a lot of growth. And in a lot of ways, it's pushed civilization forward in some capacity. So,
But did it
but
push the civilization forward?
in some capacity,
It pushed it forward in some capacity, but has it pushed us forward too much to the point where we can't process it fast enough?
I guess that's a question for another time.
Which, yeah, I can't talk about this anymore because then I'm gonna be giving away my final presentation, and I give away
mm.
that's
Ooh, exciting.
yeah.
Let me know how that goes. When is that?
I am finishing up my final presentation next week. It is a YouTube video that I'm working on. I'm finishing the script with my tutor, and then I'll be putting it up once I finish that by December 1st. And it'll be uploaded on December 13th.
I'll tune in to watch that and give you a like.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah, these two episodes that I maybe be recording will come out after that.
Hmm.
So this will be the segue. This will be the segue.
Okay.
So,
Sweet.
guys, this is the end of this episode of Manifesting Talk with Sheila and featuring Carl, my special guest. I will fill you guys in on when episode 4 comes out and the next time Carl wants to pop up on the channel to talk about his coaching services at some point.
Ooh,
So,
definitely do that.
bye guys. I will see you guys in the next video.